Thanks for listening to FYI Stillwater, where you will hear information about your local government you didn't know you need to know, straight from the source. Be sure to check out other news and information from the City of Stillwater at stillwater.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, I'm your host, Sherry Fletcher, Director of Marketing and Civic Engagement. Today, my co-host is Elisa Hines, and we were just talking. It's Friday, and it's just been a really long week. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for a 3-day weekend.
Oh, thank goodness. So am I. It has been a week, let me tell you.
Busy. We are a busy little team. There's 4 full-time and 1 part-time, and we are busy from 8 to 5. I mean... And often into the evenings, because we do have evening work as well. So we're grateful. It is Friday. Our guest today is Lance Gross. He is with planning, and if you watch the Planning Commission and City Council, you will see him almost every week. He's a regular on there.
There are times that I am saying, it's the Lance show tonight. So.
Yeah. Public hearings.
Yes.
Maybe he can tell us a little bit about what it's like and, the importance of public hearings as well.
Yes. Yes, and Lance is with the planning team here at the City of Stillwater, and the planning team administers standards of the Land Development Code to ensure new development and redevelopment meet with the Stillwater's, the city's standards, and he also helps make sure that they enhance the quality of life here in Stillwater.
Yeah, because this is what determines what buildings look like, where zoning, where things can appear. So we'll let him get into the details, but it's a really important job.
It is, and I can tell you, having sat in on some of those planning commission meetings and hearing what goes on there, it's really kind of opened my eyes to what the codes do and how it really helps plan out these plots. And sometimes I kind of feel sorry for the developers.
Yeah.
Because they can have a lot of the citizens that'll come in and say, oh, we don't want this here.
Mm-hmm. Not in my neighborhood, which
Exactly.
I bet Lance is probably going to say more than once before we get to the end of this.
Yes.
Well, welcome, Lance. Have you listened to a podcast before?
I have not.
Okay, so the way it works is we start with a lightning round, and we're going to ask you some random but revealing questions.
Great.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, I like the confidence. So,
Okay, Lance, what was the most memorable gift you've ever received?
I have to say probably a bicycle. I mean, because when I was young, that gave me a sense of freedom.
oh my God, I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bike was a big deal. Yeah.
You get out of the house and just go around the neighborhood.
And your mother didn't know where you were?
Exactly. No cell phones, no nothing.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm totally agreeing with you there.
Okay, I'm a country girl, so
Bikes
that didn't happen. We had bikes. I mean, when I
Yeah, but
was
it didn't
growing
give you
up,
that sense of freedom.
there was not that freedom. Now, if I could go out in the pasture down by the creek and all that, I had a great sense of freedom there, and Mom didn't always know where I was. But
Yeah.
if I was out riding my bike, she could see it up and down the
yeah.
street. Okay, Lance, what's a movie you can practically quote from start to finish?
Not that I'm embarrassed to say, but it would probably have to be Caddyshack.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so funny.
Yeah.
That is not the movie I was thinking you were going to say. So, how did you get to be a expert on Caddyshack?
It probably came from the fact that I worked on a golf course doing maintenance. So
It was like a documentary to you.
exactly, yes.
That is
yes.
so funny.
Yeah, because we knew a lot of the same characters from the movie that I worked
So
with.
it really was. It was like you knew.
Yes.
Oh, that is so funny. Now, is this like a happy memory or?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Awesome.
Yeah. Lots of fun, lots of laughter.
Yeah.
I mean, just being around all those people.
That is so funny. I hadn't really thought of it as a documentary, but I'm not going to make you quote.
Oh, no.
Can you do that? But the Bill Murray scenes.
Most of those, yeah, those are the.
Yeah.
I had heard that a lot of that was ad-lib.
Yeah, because he lived it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny.
My husband used to work as a greenskeeper in Perkins, And I know some of the stories he would tell. He would be coming home complaining about all these people, and they were trying to tell him how to do things. So yeah, I totally get the
That is
Caddyshack reference.
funny.
Yeah.
Oh, now
Yeah,
I'm
it's
going to look
really-
at you a little bit differently. Yeah. Okay, so that's funny. All right. Well, let's get into the nuts and bolts of our discussion. So, for people who don't know, what is planning and zoning? What is it you do, and what do you bring to the community?
Well, planning is basically it's a series of regulations that controls the growth of the city. And zoning is important because it makes sure that proper land uses are placed next to one another.
Okay. So, give me an example of what a proper land use would be.
Basically, if you go to, say, any commercial district,
Where businesses and restaurants are.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you want to make sure that, say, somebody doesn't come in and want to put, say, like a single-family residential house.
Like if there was an empty lot in like downtown,
Yeah,
and it wasn't zoned for a family could not put a house in even if there was an empty lot there,
exactly.
if the zoning did not allow it.
That's right. And it works opposite as well. You don't want an industrial use to go in next to, a neighborhood.
So this is why I hear and see so many times that developers come in and request a zoning change.
Yes.
Like they want to change it from RST to an SST or something along those terms.
Yeah.
What are some of those terms? What do they mean?
Well, for instance, Stillwater, a lot of communities use numbers like R1, R2, R3, and that's basically the intensity of the residential growth or development. Stillwater does a little bit different. They use RSS, which is residential small lot single family. That's the least dense.
So that's the smallest lot size for a
Correct.
residential house.
And it goes up to, say, like multifamily, RMU, different levels like that.
So whenever someone comes in and says, let's say that they bought an acre and there were some single family houses on it and they wanted to put in a high rise, and so could they just build a high rise there?
They could not. Yeah, they would have to try to rezone that.
And so there's actually a zone for high rise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a multifamily residential.
So why wouldn't they be able to put a high rise if people are just living there? So what would be the issues with putting a high rise next to small lot single families?
It all comes down to compatibility.
Okay.
We want to make sure that the land uses are compatible. Putting a tall high rise next to a single family residential neighborhood, number one, it's hard to say if there's capacity for like water and sewer.
Oh, like maybe the roads are smaller for neighborhoods with small houses.
Yeah.
So if you put a high rise in, and all of a sudden you have like a lot of people, a lot of cars, and also if my house was next to it, and the sun would never let the sun shine on my little lot. So those types of things, I guess, would play a part in it. So I would be able to say, no, I don't want that there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It'd basically be up to the city council and also planning commission first. Planning commission would make a recommendation to city council.
So what would be the difference between, say, I have a house, but I want to build a second story or a third story? And it's going to be about the same size as some of these apartment buildings, but it's still a single family. Does that make a difference?
It does, yes. There are regulations within the code that talk about what we refer to as bulk standards. And the bulk standards can be height limitations, lot coverage limitations, setback requirements as well. So you couldn't actually build out your entire lot.
Oh, you have to have a certain amount of grass or
Correct.
parking.
Yeah.
Like if maybe you were building a 3-story house because you had 6 bedrooms and you needed a car for every person in the bedroom. Where would you put the cars? So those are the issues you face whenever you're looking at this sort of stuff.
Correct.
So are you an interface between developers and the commissions and councils that look at this stuff?
You're exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what we
So
do.
I'm a developer. I'm wanting to develop something. I would come and see you, and you would help educate me on this.
Yes. Yeah.
So businesses, apartment complexes, residential developments.
Yeah.
So you deal with water and sewer and electric, and so you would know where all that stuff is.
Pretty much. We have other staff members that actually regulate and, monitor and make sure that, like electric and water and sewers all in place.
So I'm a developer, and I come to you and say, I want to develop these 5 acres.
Yeah.
What's the process?
Well, we'd basically sit down and talk to them about, what it's currently zoned, and then we ask what you're looking at, what type of, use. And then we would look at the code to see if it was compatible. So, and we also have what's called a comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan has a map in there that shows future land development. And we would always refer to that to see if it's compatible with that.
So the comprehensive plan would say, oh, we've got lots of apartments going toward this area, and then the zoning would like build up or build down from that zone. So it would go from small lot residential to multifamily to, is it commercial next and then industrial? Somewhere.
It could go to office, then commercial.
So
Then
there's a planning. So someone's planned this out, and they have best practices in those comprehensive plans.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yep.
Because it is interesting. Because so if you watch Planning Commission and City Council, they can also come in and ask for a special use. So it's like a one-time use in a place that may be zoned differently. Is that what that is?
Yes.
Kind of,
yeah.
sort of.
What happens is that within the code, it'll have a list of the permitted uses by right that, based upon the zoning, you can have that
You don't need
list.
to get permission.
Correct.
Okay.
And then there's another section that talks about the specific use permit that is maybe a little bit more intense, and it probably needs to be regulated in some way. And it's a process where it goes before Planning Commission, and they make a recommendation to City Council.
So that's when the public hearings become.
Exactly.
Because that's what you see a lot of is the public hearing. And so the neighbors that's in that area know that there's a possibility that there's something different going in their neighborhood. So they can come in and say, that's when they were saying, like, not
gets
in
contentious.
It's not necessarily in my neighborhood. We can have a high rise, but it needs to be somewhere else, or it needs, we don't want that. So I guess, and that, if you watch them, sometimes there is like, I don't know, compromising. It's like we'll put up a large, taller fence, we'll screen for noises, we'll add some better landscaping. So there's some compromise there, right?
Yes, yeah, it's give and take, basically.
But when the citizens come in and they do want to contend or whatever the word is, this addition that's wanting to go in, are they able to really make a difference?
Yeah, do they have the power to change the direction the developers are going?
And you're talking about the surrounding property
Yeah, the
owners?
neighbors.
Yeah, like the citizens groups, like the Westwood District. I know they're
Yeah.
really active.
Yeah.
So do they have a chance of making changes?
They have the ability to persuade if they have, reason. But if the proposal meets code, the Planning Commission really, they have to go along with what the code states.
So even though the citizens don't want it in their area, as long as it's meeting code, it's probably going to go through.
More than likely. Yeah.
But the citizens can still come in and can talk to the council and the planning commission and give their reasons for not wanting it and possibly persuade them either not to put something in or to make changes to something. Like I know a lot of them are concerned with flood zones and where the water runoff is going to be. Do they have a chance to maybe have you all go back and look at it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that if they bring up that concern, yeah, we will definitely look into it. And
Because they know their neighborhood.
Yes.
Yeah, because they may know things that, even though we have a lot of data in front of us, we might not know everything about that neighborhood.
you're exactly right.
And the developer also, excuse me, may want to be a really good neighbor, if going into that neighborhood and will agree to, oh, well, we didn't think the lights would bother you, so we'll do something else, for lighting, or we'll move the driveway somewhere else. So it's a really good conversation if they can come together and make a plan together. So I guess that's kind of the purpose of that public hearing as well.
Correct. And hopefully, both parties are willing to work together to come to some type of resolution.
So you've worked in some other cities. Is Stillwater different than other cities when it comes to this type of governance of space?
It's pretty similar to the other cities that I've worked in, but probably the interesting part about working here is that, we know most of the people, the developers and stuff like that. It's just not somebody from out of town coming in. And, we have the ability to, get accustomed to the different neighbors from the different neighborhoods. So it's
still a small town.
yeah, which is great though. We kind of know what to expect, which is a good thing.
Awesome.
Now I see you and Ryan both come in off and on. And you seem to be speaking almost for the developer, but you're really not. How does that work?
We present the facts, and we have to stay neutral. We don't give a recommendation. We leave that up to the planning commission to make. We just present the idea and the concept to them, and then
Because you guys are the professionals and you study this. This is your day in and day out.
Yeah.
So the people on the like planning commission and city council are residents who may or may not understand the in-depth stuff that you guys are dealing with.
Yeah.
So what type of people are best suited to be on a planning commission? Do they have to have a certain background? Because it's a lot of detail for some of this stuff to just come in as a layperson and automatically understand it.
yeah, that's a great point. And what we try to do. Real estate agents are great individuals to have, attorneys, bankers. It can be actually anybody. But we do try to have training sessions and to try to get them into the mix as to
And that's part of what you're doing is educating them so that they
Correct.
And the people watching the planning commission and council is that you learn so much. So you're relatively new to the city. What was your impression of zoning and planning and people putting in businesses before you started here?
I really didn't know what the process was. I just felt like they probably bought the land and
something
could use
just
it.
popped up?
And, yeah, I mean, I knew there was zoning.
Yeah.
So I knew that there had to be either commercial zoning or housing zoning. So I would think that before somebody bought a plot of land, they would check into what kind of zoning it was, and if it wasn't zoned right, they wouldn't buy it. But I didn't realize that they could buy it and then come in and ask to have it rezoned for what they were wanting. So that was kind of new to me. But then I was also amazed at the number of residents that actually will stand up and say, no, we need to step back and look at this more. It's not that we don't want it to go in, but we want it to go in differently because it may cause issues with driving around the neighborhood.
Or change the personality of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's your home. So the thought is that you can come in and be heard because it is my home. And if you're going to be adding, changing the zoning, and it's a neighborhood, and next thing you know, it's a shopping mall area. It's like you should have some say in it, I would think. So.
And it's totally different than living in the country. In the country, somebody comes in, they buy the land next to you, they can build whatever they want on that land, and you have no say. So to see that the citizens actually do have kind of a say was kind of eye-opening.
Yeah, and it is interesting, coming in and listening to people say, oh, we think, there was some single houses here, but we think duplexes would work better. And then you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Sure, or, oh my God, that'll change the neighborhood. So it really is people come in and just explaining what's going on from where they stand. And I think it's really interesting.
Now, we have a college town. We're a college town here. We have OSU. Does that ever cause any kind of issue or challenges whenever you're trying to zone things? Or not zone things or unzone things?
In a way, yes.
Because it's another element.
Yeah. Okay, any of the property that has to do with Oklahoma State, we don't deal with. But, you take into consideration the different types of uses that are unique to a college town. There's a fair number of, multifamily residential structures
Right.
close to campus. Fraternity houses, sorority houses, all those types of things. And, it's one of those things that it's unique and, not everybody gets to really deal with it. But it's fun to be able to see and to see how things develop.
Well, there's a lot going on there, and we probably could talk to you for like several more hours going over all the different things that you do. Would it be okay if we invite you back to another session?
That would be awesome. I'd love that.
All right. I think there's so much here that the citizens maybe kind of sort of know about, but they just don't really understand it, or they don't see it because they're not watching Planning Commission and stuff. So I think we can delve into this because I really want to talk industrial and medical marijuana again. It's like where talking about where can a pawn shop go in next to a church? I don't know. We'll ask him next time.
I bet a bar can't.
A bar. So there's, and, like, in the fraternities and sororities, like, how does that change because they're kind of in with the residents as well, but they are residents. Just a lot of fascinating stuff going on there. All right. Well, we're going to invite you back.
Great.
So thanks for being our guest today.
Well, great to be here.
Before we go, let's take a look at the mailbox. The city receives questions in a lot of ways, including emails, social media, phone calls. Today's first question is from Sue on Facebook. I keep hearing about this flash vote. What is it, and how do I sign up?
Well, Flash Vote is something that once you do sign up for, we send out about 4 to 5, 6 flash votes a year. And what it is it's kind of like a survey. You go in and you fill out the different questions, and we are able to take your answers and figure out how we're doing, I guess.
Yeah,
is
it's a polling service. And so when we're looking for data to help city council make decisions or city management make decisions, we need data. And so what we have is this polling service called Flash Vote. And as she said, you register and then you wait. And then we'll send out a survey, and it's real easy. It's like if you have a minute to help your city government have better information, you answer 5 questions, and we get the data back. And it helps us, know what you're thinking, what you want, kind of a direction to go, and it helps people make decisions.
And it's actually quite a bit of data, too, that we get.
It's surprising what you can do in 5 questions.
Yes, and we're able to filter it out with different options, and that's what really surprised me is how much of different options that you get, and how much different data based on if they're maybe they live within city limits or they live outside of city limits, because it's not just for City of Stillwater residents.
Correct.
It's for people that live in the area
and
that
have an interest in Stillwater. Maybe they work here. Maybe they go to school here. So if you can, flashvote.com, you can put in your zip code and it'll pick Stillwater, and so you just accept that. Go ahead and register now, and then the next time there's a survey, you'll be in the control group.
And they get the survey via their phone, via
however they want.
Email.
You can have the survey texted to you. You can get it from email, and if you prefer, somebody will call you And you can do the questions over the phone if you're not a smartphone user. So that's an option as well.
Or if you're like me, you don't know the number, you don't answer it.
There you go. All right. Well, let's go to the second question. Let's see what this is Carson from Twitter. And the question really is, it's Perkins Road, and he's saying that it needs a turn lane. And so when, if ever, will there be a turn lane on Perkins Road? What do we know about Perkins Road, Elisa?
Oh, Carson, we get this question quite often.
I think daily.
Almost daily,
Yeah.
yes, if not. Perkins Road is actually owned by ODOT, not the City of Stillwater, even though it runs through the city, and they maintain it.
So they're the ones that stripe it, they repave it, they're the ones that's going to expand it if it gets expanded.
Yes, like the corner at 6th and Perkins Road, that was done by ODOT, not by the city.
Yeah, adding all of those turn lanes, which I think is really beautiful. I think it was a really well done job.
It was well needed, and it does look nice, and it definitely helps. I know trying to turn that corner, you got 2 lanes, it makes it real easy. So I can totally understand you wanting to have a turn lane. It is definitely something that is needed. However, it is a major process to do this because you can't just come in and tear the road up and put the turn lane in, and you've got to go through and you've got to look at everything. You've got to survey it. You have to do, you even have to look at,
The stormwater.
you've got to look at stormwater, but you also have to look at like the animals that live in the area and how it will affect them. You've got to do all sorts of different types of surveys. But then you have the right-of-ways that kind of are butted up against where the ditches are. Well, you have to buy those right-of-ways.
So you can expand the road.
So you can expand the road. So you've got to go to each individual home that lives along that road or business. And negotiate with them to buy those right-of-ways. And in some instances, people just won't sell. So then you've got to go back and do an eminent domain. And that takes a long time. It can take 3 to 5 years just to get the process done. Plus, on top of that, the City of Stillwater has had to go and move electric lines, sewer lines, water
Right.
lines, all of that. They have to be moved back away from the road from where they are. And then you got to bring dirt in and fill it all in. So it's a very long process. And once we get to that, to where we're ready, and it looks like they're probably going to start in 2022, so not too much longer, but they're still working on right-of-ways at this point and moving back electrical and water and sewer.
So ODOT has had this on their long-range plan for several years. So the planning was done almost 5 years ago. And it's just now to the point where they're like, oh, that's where we are in the process. We're ready to almost start construction.
Right, and the city is partnering with ODOT
Right.
on this one, and that's why we're doing all the line movements and we're doing the purchasing of the rights of way. So once we get all that in place, then it will be time to actually start putting it in. So, Carson, it is coming. Just please be patient.
All right. Thanks for listening to FYI Stillwater. If you like this episode, help us out and give us a like or share us with your friends. If you have a question for City Hall, email news@stillwater.org, and in the next podcast, we'll answer a few of them. FYI Stillwater is available on our website at stillwater.org, Spotify, and just about anywhere else you enjoy your podcast.